That should work. I forgot to get my chat. Literally forgot to get my chat. Wait, where's my chat? Wait, what the fuck? Where's my chat? Wait, hang on. Where's where's my chat? There's my chat. Thank you. Why are you more garbage today than you were yesterday? What the fuck is wrong with you? You were more functional yesterday than you are today. What has happened to you? What has happened to you? What has happened? Okay, so I think I'm live. I don't know anymore. Oh, hello. What do you mean? What has happened to me? Oh, what has happened to me? Not me. YouTube. YouTube sucks. Hey Jacob. Hey Ryan. How you guys doing? Sorry, I was distracted. I'm gonna play the Executioner. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna have fun. It's gonna be a fun time. You feeling any better today, Ryan? The game encourages you to make choices. Remember, none of them will be wrong, but each carries consequences. You can always change your mind, and it may cost too much. Act thoughtfully and stay true to your principles. When I read the sword, so I wish you eternal life. Inscription on an executioner sword, 1600.
People of different times and places have invented plenty of ways to wreck the bodies and break the spirits of their fellow men. All these ways have something in common. The executioner. The man performing these terrible acts and turning people into wretched parodies of themselves. This is a story of one executioner. My story.
Oh, what is my stream title? I don't know what my stream title is. What is my stream title? Perfectly respectable job. Perhaps. Sorry, I'm slightly out of it. It's what we do. Okay, so the fuck? The fuck? Language. English. Okay. The language is English. We're in English. Okay, so let's work this out. Glossary? Sacred War, from the Father's Diary. Historians believe that the glory of the state came to its zenith with the victory over the pagans and the return of the capital to its original place. Only I see that this is the beginning of the end. Your record, the 5-year war against the pagans largely determined the modern borders of the kingdom. Half a century ago, the founder of the royal dynasty led a campaign. Yeah, it's been out for quite some time, right? Led a campaign against the pagans and returned the capital of the kingdom to his people, first seized a century earlier, before he married the widowed queen. Okay, so that's a war. Look at our profession. How you doing? Father's Diary. The one who is different from the rest is doomed to isolation. Even I don't understand how my son sees the world. What is the chance that someone else would even want to understand? As for the fate that awaits him, it makes no difference. Absolute loneliness will bind the two of us more strongly. Yeah, no, I'm sorry you didn't know, Rune. I'm inclined to consider all of the deviations he was born with as a sign that my plan was a success. I've owned this game for like a month, maybe a little more. Your entry. How does a person know that they are different from the rest? People describe feelings with poetic comparisons. Ordinary language is too simple for it, but the poets are lying. No one truly hears how the heart sings. The walls of the old house do not tell the secrets of their tenants. The pain of others doesn't taste bitter on the tongue, and deceitful words are not coloured purple. Only I experience a world like that. Okay, cases? No cases. Inventory? No inventory. Character? There's stats. I have stats. And visit house at night to learn skills. Interesting. Interesting. Alone. Overview, politics, conscience, chaos. Okay, but how do I do? Oh, game, can we discuss this? Can we discuss this? My diary isn't in English. Thank you for that tip. That tip is great. That tip is helpful. Thank you for that. Language. Suddenly, taste for tears of fruity sourness in this word. Serious lie. Okay, the game didn't start in English. That's wonderful. You can always tell when someone is lying to you. This is partly due to an inborn ability in your heightened senses. It also comes from the hard training your father gave you. Do not just listen here, your father always says. Don't trust the words. Watch the face. Observe. Use all your senses at once. Only then will you understand if someone is lying to you or not. He said that most people's perception isn't as clear as yours. Their senses are limited. You had to endure many trials during your training as your father developed your ability. You still have nightmares of one such incident from childhood. You were about 10 years old. Yeah, you were about 10 years old, that's it. Your father came home late. He was escorted by 2 royal guards who were waiting outside. I'm not executing anyone, screen. Are you executing anyone? Because I'm not. Your father was grim as he knelt before you. He placed his hands on your shoulders. Words cannot describe the fear and despair you felt the moment he said, I am guilty of treason. The trial will be held today. The king has only given me enough time to say goodbye. You're on your own now. Well, that's sad. How you doing, screen? The irony of that situation caught up to you today, 8 years later, when your father's assistant ran into the house and said while trying to catch his breath, your father is being accused of treason. The trial has already begun. Listening carefully to his heightened pulse, you feel an unpleasant sweetness on your tongue, which means he is telling the truth. Cool. Not executing anyone, too busy watching Castle? Castle? Like the TV show Castle? I really enjoyed that show. How far in are you? Like, have you just started watching it? Like, had you watched it previously? Okay, so I can't go to the executioner's house. I have to go to the palace. Today the palace is gloomy and frightening in the fog. Oh, that's me. I see, that's me. You don't remember your mindless run to the palace. Finally, you and your father's assistant stand in front of the entrance to the royal court. The guards at the doors don't let you inside. Through the closed doors you can hear voices, merging into a monotonous mumbling, occasionally interrupted by indignant shouts. The assistant is breathing heavily and leaning on the wall. Writing is hard on him these days. You suddenly notice his decrepitude. You don't know his exact age, but he seems ancient. We're gonna see where things go. Oh, but I'm gonna give this guy some water. Currently in season 3, it's the first time I'm going with the series. I didn't finish the series. I didn't finish it, but I got quite a decent distance in. I found it to be a really good show. I'm gonna give him some water. I'm gonna be humane. I'm gonna give him some water. Take the flask of water from your belt that you always carry with you when you go to the city. The city water carries too many smells. You begin to feel sick just thinking about its taste. Without even thanking you, the assistant grabs a flask and drinks noisily. Fucking cunt. You heard me. You heard me. You hear a rounded sound of water gurgling inside the flask and the stuffy smell coming from the assistant. For a moment, you return to your childhood. The old man lived in your house then. You spent more time with him than you did with your father. You remember that it was he who once made this flask for you. And you remember well the day when your father threw the old man out of the door and ordered him never to come near the house even if he was freezing in a ditch. Wow, okay. Dad's a cunt. You clearly heard the acrid despair of the assistant and the boiling anger of your father, together with a note of fear. For years you've only met the old man in prison, polishing tools or washing blood off the floor in a torture chamber. Now you see the shadow of gloating in his eyes. Attempt to hear something from the courtroom. You suddenly come to realize that this dirty old man will possibly outlive your father. You turn away trying to hear something from the courtroom. The assistant's hoarse and heavy sighs behind your back do not help as you try to discern something useful in the confusing humming. His guilt is obvious, you finally manage to hear. You realize that the person talking of your father's guilt is lying. The voice seems familiar, but you can't concentrate enough to remember who it belongs to. Do you want to be the royal executioner? The question catches you by surprise. The assistant empties a flask and is standing nearby, observing your reaction. Doesn't have your gift, but you can feel that your answer is very important to him. I'm not killing anyone! Of course, this is a family business and I'll carry it on. And no, I don't want to spend my life torturing people. It's too early to talk about it. I don't want to go with no. I don't want to go with no. We're not going with no. So, it's either too early to talk about it, or, of course, it's a family business and I'll carry it on. I don't think this is the right time to talk about taking my father's place. My father has not actually been found guilty. It seems that the assistant has already buried father in his thoughts. I don't know, you finally say under the persistent stare of the old man. It's too early to talk about it. Maybe the trial. You stop talking so as not to jinx it. Yes, someday you will become the royal executioner. People will bow before you with fear and draw signs of warding behind your back. But what is happening now is too much like a nightmare. You bite the inside of your cheek to make sure this is no dream, and the pain proves that. Well, the assistant says dryly after you don't respond. Think about it, boy. You'll have to make a choice sooner or later. The trial has ended. The sound of trumpets alerts everyone that my mouse has just fallen on the floor. Come back, mouse. No, mouse, come back. No, mouse. I have retrieved the mouse. Do not worry. Do not worry. Do not worry. Things have been fixed. The sound of trumpets alerts everyone that the trial is over a moment before the doors open. A crowd of guards, noble courtiers, and royal officials spills from the courtroom where your father's fate was decided a moment ago. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, there's words on the screen, but you know. Okay. Are you glad that I have retrieved my mouse? Are you glad that the situation is fixed? A herald pretentiously walks past you to the balcony used for announcing royal orders to the public. Reads the verdict. The royal executioner is convicted of treason. The execution will be held tomorrow at noon. The crowd is like a flickering kaleidoscopic whirlwind under the lights of endless candles, but you feel as if the room is shrouded in darkness. You extend your neck, searching for your father, but your efforts are in vain. The assistant's words pull you out of your stupor. Execution, yes, but who will be the executioner this time? Oops. Oops. I did not just accidentally make a phone call. I didn't accidentally make a phone call, okay? You were considering to start petting? You remember what your father told you. Convicts are escorted from the courtroom through a special door leading directly to the prison. Okay, so we're going to the prison now. The iron grating on the dark throat of the prison looks like it's carved in a rock. It seemed to be a safe place to you. Now it's a deadly trap. New day begins. Your progress has been saved. Really? Already? New day? I did not answer phone. That was actually me accidentally making a call. Yeah. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I'm an idiot. Okay. The assistant, your record. The assistant has served in the royal prison under the father for years. He started as an apprentice and could have aspired to be an executioner in one of the kingdom's cities, but father decided to keep him close. He kept the old man in the dockhouse and always spoke of him with contempt. The assistant lived in our house and helped with the housework. Later, father threw him out. The assistant alternates fawn with malice behind others' backs. His hatred for people looks inflamed and unsafe, like a festering wound. Okay, sorry. Okay, we're all set. Let's see. Hang on, are these new? That one's not new, but is this professional one new? I don't know if I read this earlier. It's fine, we'll ignore it for the moment. Cases. Father's case. Case of treason. Father has been charged with treason. He did not say anything in his defense during the trial. Like Castle would never felt the need to finish it. Yeah, same. Especially when they did their cast change. I was just like, okay, I'm done. Father has been charged with treason. Treason. He did not say anything in his defense during the trial. Was sentenced to death by beheading. I also gave up on Bones when they did their Sleepy Hollow crossover, because that hurt me. That hurt me. Suspect, the father. Clues. You heard and remembered the voice of the accuser. Said that the father was guilty of treason and he was lying. Okay. That's all my clues. My clues are I heard someone lying about him being guilty. You know, I didn't see that crossover. I didn't watch that crossover. But the fact that that crossover existed, that then puts, you know, Bones in the Sleepy Hollow world. And it's just, you know. Oof. Okay. Can I spend points? I need experience, okay. Okay, let's start the day. This short summer night burns with the dawn. You feel agitated standing near the prison entrance, trying to figure out how to get inside. By the time dawn comes, you've exhausted yourself. It's a shame your father had fostered such reverence to the crown within you. If not for fear of breaking the law, you could have easily stuck into prison and freed your father before any of the guards knew it. Not like Emily Deschanel, so never really got into points. Oh, well that's fair. Oh, I have more stuff. Okay, the city. The royal prison in the father's diary. The place where history is made. The sincerest sacrifices made here. The law and the truth. It's my domain, which may be inherited by my son. I enjoyed both Bones and Castle, but I didn't finish either of them. I enjoyed them though. Okay. Let's go. In the morning. When the dawn comes, a crowd of onlookers surrounds the prison. Guards shout to repel the most curious ones from the gates, but suddenly, the crowd roars and closes around the prison entrance. The convicted executioner is being escorted outside. You make your way through the crowd and catch the sight of your father, who is strangely stooped and haggard, as if he has lost half of his bulk in one day. I haven't seen Black Sails. It's good. Two guards push you to the side with the shafts of their spears. Son of a traitor, one of them contemptuously says. Move away and don't interfere with royal justice. You will join your father on the scaffold. Unable to stop yourself, you take a step forward and the guards back off. You suddenly realize they're scared of you, even when unarmed. Your huge frame and strong arms look even more impressive at a distance. The guards are afraid for a reason. You could try to rescue your father. However, assaulting the royal guards could lead to dire consequences. The most likely outcome is you being executed as well. But even the prospect of ending up in prison frightens you throughout the kingdom's history. Throughout the kingdom's history, too few have made their way home after imprisonment instead of on the scaffold. Instigators of city riots like to blame the ruling monarch and paint him as a bloodthirsty killer. Your father said that it had always been this way. You see him shaking his head from behind the guards then, looking away again. He obviously doesn't want you to risk everything for him. So guys, what should I do? Should I go rescue my father and do this conflict tutorial? Or should I not do this conflict tutorial? If it's got the word tutorial in it, surely I'm not going to die, right? It says it's a tutorial. I should do it. I should do it. Don't worry, I'm going to do it. The fuck? 6 guards led by a sergeant lined up between you and the father. You often saw this grey-haired man in the royal prison. For many years he worked alongside the father. The translation is a little bit off, but you know, it's good. You know that he's extremely proud of his ability to handle him. The guards are trained to fight together. They will easily disperse the crowd of drunks or troublemakers. Will they have time to stop your desperate dash to your father? 1 death later. At the beginning of the conflict, you assess the situation and mentally articulate your goals in the confrontation. Hang on, I have to mentally articulate my goals. There are 4 ways to resolve the conflict. By yourself, you have access only to 3. People are staying away from the executioners, and persuasion is not your strong suit. The right equipment adds to the chance of success. If you have Parv's axe, it will be much easier to intimidate or attack. Could I have gotten that if I decided to be the executioner? It's possible for enemies to resist your attack, but you can easily understand what they are least prepared for. Each of your actions in the conflict has 3 possible outcomes: triumph, success, and failure. You can easily calculate the possibilities. These numbers in your head sound like the cries of enemies. Am I fucking Sherlock Holmes here? You can always raise the stakes and take the conflict to the next level. While it's easy to flare up with rage, it's not easy to extinguish it. You can't immediately calm down and try to intimidate those you've already raised your hand on. Opponents use any hitch of yours. If you decide to raise the stakes and you attempt to win, will have less chance of success or triumph. Penalty will be added to the parameters of the enemy. You don't want to fight the guards seriously, so the obvious option is to scare them. Show them that you're willing to do anything to get to your father. You want me to intimidate, I'm guessing. Have an 80% chance to fail, 20% chance of success, and a 7% chance of triumph. This does not seem like it's going well. I failed. The moment before you start moving, your instinct tells you how it will end, in failure. This is partly a game of chance, partly the result of preparation, yours and your opponent's. Fate throws the dice and delivers its verdict. Your keen senses tell you what the outcome of the chosen action will be, but the prediction does not have to become true. You can reconsider. Usually failure can also be an acceptable outcome. After all, conflict is not the only way to achieve a goal, but today is a special case. You intend to fight to the end, for your father's sake. In any other case, you will have a choice to accept this option or try to escalate the conflict, increasing the risks. Acting by force or attacking enemies with a weapon in your hand means risking your health. After a sleepless night, you have almost no strength. If your stamina fails, you will get a wound, which you would easily avoid under the normal conditions. You have a pouch of golden root with you, which you hope to give to your father. It will instantly restore your strength and give you the opportunity to continue the fight. Okay, I'll take some golden root. It's here. It's here. Blood begins to run faster through the veins, rushing to the head, forcing the heart to beat at ribcage more frequently. You feel like you've just woken up, despite the fog of rage still enveloping your head. Now you're ready to fight. Raise the stakes. Unstoppable evil rises inside you. You could have attacked them with their weapons or knocked them out with your bare hands from the beginning, but you wanted to persuade them without bloodshed. Well, it seems that the cruelest methods are the most effective. I'm still only at a 10% chance of triumph and a 30% chance of success. Success, cool. Fate once again makes a move. Any accidents may interfere with a correct step, or, on the contrary, make successful an almost hopeless attempt. This time, fate gives you success. Now you have a choice. Agree with this outcome, successful but not ideal. Try again to charge the guards. To take away a weapon from one of them, and let the blood be shed. Let's raise the stakes like the game wants me to. If you are ready to reach the weapon, regardless of the consequences, you should do it immediately. If you first decide to intimidate and then change your mind and join the battle, you have less chances to win. The enemy will notice the hesitation and use it. You have a better chance with a weapon, but you're risking not with stamina anymore, but with health. The guards will respond to the threat accordingly, and the wounds won't heal in one day. Even yours. The choice is yours. Is the choice mine though? You clearly want me to click this button. You want me to click this button. When you take arms, someone dies. This is a hard test for the mind. Besides, your surviving opponents will surely remember this. You know better if your goals are worth it. This time you'll get off easy, but other conflicts can end in your death. Hello? What do you want from me, game? Oh, okay, there we go. You just grab the two nearest halberds under the edge and pull them towards you. Their owners crumble under your feet. You send the taken halberd forward and the shaft is painted sticky and salty. You release the second halberd and grab its master by the neck, setting him down on the pavement. The others are knocking into a wall between you and your father. They are grim as graveyard crows. The blades of their halberd look at you like hunting bats. You stubbornly rush forward. One tip penetrates right through the shoulder. You beat back with your fist. The guard falls back with a broken neck. Another blade you catch and clench in your fist, not paying attention to the purple pain pouring from the wound. In horror, its owner releases the pole and runs. Without waiting for the rest to come to their senses, you rush to your father and take hold of his shackles. The chain links begin to break, but your father holds your hands and suddenly smiles. Son, he says, I want you to take an axe. You shudder with all your body from the sincerity and strange wrongness of his words. Stunned by the strength of his quiet voice, you involuntarily step back. But at the last moment, he manages to shove a small bundle in your hands. The moment's lost. You dodge the first strike of a halberd and run away. Looking back over your shoulder, you see how the sergeant, still standing next to your father, raises his gun. For some reason, he does not pull the trigger. He shakes his head and bellows at the guards who are chasing you. Shoot in formation around the prisoner, and pick up the pace. This one, who lowers the gun, isn't going anywhere. Go. The chase stops, gritting their teeth, the guards at bay. The sergeant pulls the chain that holds his father, and they leave. I see. You helplessly see the squad marching toward the execution place, then you go away, pushing the onlookers. On the stinky alley behind the prison, you try to catch your breath and pass aside the thought that breaking your father out of prison at night would have been easier. To distract yourself, you unroll the package that your father has given you. Inside there is an old book with a dark cover. His diary. Examine the father's diary. Father's diary +1. A massive book, in a simple but sturdy binding of some rugged material, is filled with your father's writings. Margins of many pages are decorated with strange ornaments, as if your father was scrambling intricate patterns while he was lost in thought. He spoke of this book. He called it the work of his life, the difference between me and my precursors, and suffering turned into science. The book is mesmerizing. It feels alive as if it's absorbed the suffering and the deaths of all the unlucky ones whose pain this book was written on. Father treasured this book. Yet were you to choose one memento to keep of him, most likely, If you would not have taken this symbol of his work, your examination is interrupted by the trombones of the City Herald. With a startled jump, you rush to the place of execution. Section. Okay. Father's Diary. I begin this work in the hope of generalizing, preserving, and increasing the knowledge of the great science of pain. Of course, it's not for common use. It is unlikely that anyone has grown to the heights of knowledge that I have. I work for myself and for my son, who will someday take my diary in hand. Thick book in a simple but strong cover and rough skin is written in the sharp hand of the father. Many pages are decorated with the strange ornaments. He often spoke about this book. The father called it the work of my life, the main difference between me and my predecessors, and the torment that has become a science. Let's see, anything else? No. Okay, all good. We're caught up. Let's look at this. Father's being charged with treason. He did not say anything in his defense during the trial and was sentenced to death by beheading. Father did not want to escape from custody. Father asked you to take his axe. Father gave you his diary. Okay. I guess I'm injured. Probably injured. I have points to spend. I can spend the points. Oh. We'll look at that later. Okay, to the palace square. Following the sound of trumpets, you find yourself in the palace square, the main and oldest part of the city. The shadow of the castle hill is falling on it from one side, and the other is overshadowed by the Angel's Chapel. Following the sound of trombones, you find yourself at the palace square, where it's impossible to take a breath due to the number of people gathered there. Rumblings of excitement from the hungry crowd, combined with offensive shouts towards the convict, deafen you. People are looking forward to the execution, already sensing the blood. They step away from you in disgust, and it becomes surprisingly easy to walk through such a dense crowd. You notice the guards pushing away the onlookers, making their way toward you. They have red feathers on their helmets, the king's personal guards. One of them points his spear at you, if you are some kind of dangerous animal, and grimly tells you to follow him. It was the same way so many times before. You used to come to the palace square, walk through the crowd to the scaffold, stand next to your father to witness one more moment of suffering and terror. You watch as another criminal left this earth, feeling the response of the crowd as an echo of a stone falling down the deepest well. The stones of the palace square repeat the rhythm of your steps. They remind you of the first time you saw an execution. Do you hear? Do you remember, little one? They whisper. What did you feel when there was blood on your father's axe and death before your eyes? You have to answer them. It was something peculiar. The guards lose their pace and look back at you, murmuring the words, but they say nothing. Ascend the scaffold. Oh, did I just have something happen to my worldview? Which I didn't notice? Something down here? You ascend the platform that is set up in the middle of the square. Tents are erected to protect the royal officials from the heat with comfortable benches inside. Oh, I see. Worldview. A wooden throne for the king. Escorted by the guards, you make your way through the most famous people in the city. One of them turns to you and recoils in disgust. Others squeamishly pick up the hems of their ceremonial dresses. You overhear someone's conversation. Just throw them a bar and there will be no reason to fear their sharp teeth. They roar and rage until they sense a strong hand. Don't look down, don't show fear, and the beast will not touch you. Fear? Don't be ridiculous. Royal Highness is as right as ever. Spill a bit of blood and the plebs wag their tails. Servants step away and you see the throne. Your assistant is already kneeling before it. His thin grey hair stuck to the back of his head, his skin covered in restless sweat. Sharp spears prick his sides, threatening to pierce the old leather of his jacket. You don't need to be such dicks to me. I only killed like 1 or 2 people. Kneel before the king. Oh, that's such a great picture of the king. He looks so lovely. The king is neither young nor attractive. He is not as tall as your father or as strong as you. However, his proud posture makes his shoulders look wider than they are, and his sharp grey eyes seem to pierce right through you. He's wearing a heavy cloak with a rich fur fringe, seems unfazed by the heat which seems to loom over him like a second crown, never touching or burning him. One sparing gesture and a respectful silence reigns over the platform. Everybody seems to be holding their breath. You can no longer distinguish the roaring of the crowd from the blood pounding in your ears. Your family, young man, has served our honourable ancestors for generations. Sadly, recent events have disturbed the order of things. Your father became a traitor. Now the crown is in need of a new royal executioner. According to tradition, this title falls to you. However, by our mercy, we are prepared to let go of this tradition, offer an alternative. You may either assume your duties as the executioner tomorrow, or refuse your family's benefits. The choice is yours. Decide. Don't lower your eyes in front of the king, out of habit rather than disrespect. And you notice his red lips pull into smile. I'm gonna... The one wounded words in the king's speech seems red and black. What? I'm gonna have to accept. As the law commands, that's all you can utter, feeling an iron hand squeeze your throat. Across the town square you see the king smile. You're doing exactly what he wants. Our mercy to you knows no bounds today, young man. We have no wish to break this tradition. You may become the executioner and prove your skill and loyalty to us. As it happens, you have your work cut out for you. Bitterness fills your mouth. Son, listen, I want you to take the axe. You remember your father's words. He reminded you about this tradition himself. The black handle of father's axe appears before your eyes. Take a rugged breath and hear a sniff of contempt. The assistant walks away, his eyes burning with vile glee. He didn't get his way. It seems that watching you suffer brings him perverted joy. How did...
Either I murder my own father, or he will be executed by the assistant.
I see.
But the old man is weak, and cannot finish it with one precise blow. The execution will be dirty and painful, unless I do it myself.
Oof. I'll do it myself.
I'm trying to catch Father's eyes, but he's standing with his head down, and from below, thousands of greedy eyes stare up at me. I can't show fear. The crowd, this predator, they will smell it. Last words I say with a voice that does not sound like my own. Father only shakes his head silently, and the assistant pushes him to his knees. I lift my axe over his pale neck, and then my father smiles, as if I have learned my lesson correctly. Through the roar of the crowd, I can hear him whispering, "The beast." I'm
trying to catch father's eyes. He's standing with his head down. Through the roar of the crowd, I can hear him whispering, "The beast. Execute your father." Oof. Oof.
Father's head rolls
Fine, you do it.
to the edge of the scaffold. I walk along a warm, bloody trail and lift it up by the hair. It's tradition. The criminal must see how the people accept his death. The eager screams almost knock me down. I step back, and suddenly I look at the dead eyes of my father. And that's the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life. The whirlpool of nightmares drags me into the dark. The smell of the shade, the taste of the raw earth, the unfamiliar voice that pulls a strange song without words. The priest's prayer stinks of scorching, and the song soars and shines like hot metal. Then I hear the voice of my father. You must feed the beast.
Okay. Fair enough. The world comes back. He was standing, holding the axe in one hand, the head in another. The royal official's platform is empty, the king is nowhere to be seen. The crowd dissipates, rain is falling on the scaffold and the square around it. Cold drops rolling down your neck and face, washing away sweat and tears. Let's see, anything else here? The king! The current country's ruler took the throne as a spring chicken and immediately signed treaties with two southern neighbours, stopping the long-standing feuds. Bad peace is better than a good quarrel, as they say, but it seems that peace is on its last legs in recent times. Alas, the monarch's popularity is falling. Thanks to this and the rumours of the family curse, which not one member of the royal family has been able to escape. The king. Some hate him for his cruelty, for brewing war with the country's neighbours. for the harsh taxes and cruel laws, but he could only be pitied when one sees him. His shoulders, which are covered in a heavy fur cloak even on the hottest of days, clearly encumbered by the heavy weight of ruling, since the weight is 1,000 times heavier than my axe. Father was executed on the palace square by the king's command. You were accused of treason with your father. You had to assume the executioner's duties to avoid death. Father was executed. You took an axe and cut off his head by yourself. Oof. Just oof. I own an axe now, though. The executioner's axe old. An old axe with a wide crescent-shaped blade with a handle has gone black from age and use. The handle, you can see words etched into the wood. They are unknown to you. A few dozen notches on the butt of the handle are visible, one for each man your father executed. Use weapon plus 20. Father's Diary, quest item. Thick book with a simple but strong cover made of coarse fabric written in sharp handwriting. Many pages decorated with strange patterns. The work of your father's life. In his own words, it's torment that has become silence. I also have a cart and a basement and a house. I guess. Ah. Visit house at night to learn skills. Okay, so that's what I need to do. Leave the palace square. Guess we're going home. Come to your senses near your house with a sharp feeling of wrongness. Dark blue dusk, you can see the cracking gates in the wind. Path to your porch spotted with countless footsteps. There is chaos inside the house. You fail to understand whether the guards were searching for something or if they were merely curious about the trader's home. You can tell they were there by their rudeness to your father's books, by the missing bread in the kitchen, by the empty bottle shattered on the floor. You rarely used to visit your father's room, but the emptiness of the bookshelves tells you that something important has taken from you not so long ago. You can hear another chain of footsteps. The sight of this visit has a strange scent, too pale to understand clearly. Somebody came to the house before the guards, while you were waiting near the prison. They took one of your father's belongings. When I got this axe, along with the position of court executioner, I first of all replaced the handle and scratched off the holy symbols engraved on the butt. Dad always acted as he should, but I didn't want every time waving a craft tool to see what turned out to be evil for us. This axe belonged to 3 generations of the Grimm family. Your grandfather, a veteran of the Holy War, received it from the king and handed it down to his son. Its handle has been changed several times, but the blade remains the same. The attentive eye can see the notches on the handle and semi-erased characters on the butt. Anything else? Okay. Okay, let's clean the house. Can't sleep tonight. Tragedy today keeps you awake. In the morning you will take the execution position and go to the torture chamber without your father for the first time. The last time you were there was a year ago. You do not like to remember what happened then. That was the only time you had practice with a real crime, with a real prisoner. Remember your father says. And I need to just check this out really quick. A bit over a year ago, when spring had just started, father's assistant had fallen ill with a strong migraine, not a short migraine. In the morning, your father announced that he was ready to try you out as a journeyman. You already knew a lot about how the human body works and about the tools of an executioner. Of course, we'd sharpened and cleaned them so many times. That was the first time you visited the royal prison. The place where your father spent the majority of his time. It appeared empty to you. You would imagine it as the center of the world. It turned out to be the west section of the palace dungeon, deserted and silent. Torches burning only next to the cells that had someone imprisoned. Don't worry, your father said. I know you're ready. I've taught you everything myself. We have enough time, so I will show you everything you need in practice. When you become the executioner, you'll be working with an aide. Today, I will be your assistant. I will help with the effort of both of us needed. I'll make sure you do everything right. So I can rest, or I can do the tutorial. Let's do the tutorial. Victim, the scribe. You enter the interrogation chamber. There is a heavy, dark wood chair in the middle of the room with a high back and belts on the armrests. There is a table with instruments next to it. A skinny man with bald spots on his head and deep-set, terrified eyes is looking at you. He is chained to a chair by his wrists and ankles. First glance, the prisoner seems fine. Your father knows how to punch without leaving a mark. Only by examining his posture you realize that he is far from alright. You tell by the man's clothes that he works in the castle as one of the youngest scribes. His frock is now crumpled and soaked in sweat. Let's start with a question, is the most important thing. What happens later will be the choice of the prisoner. But questions and the right answers are what the royal executioner gets paid for. Your father says if you were alone there, of course. First it is important to get the prisoner ready to answer. This criminal has been sitting here since dawn. He has already admitted to stealing. Which question, according to the protocol, should we ask next? What do you think? Remember, of course, because your father told you more than once, it is important to find out if the criminal had any accomplices. It's simple. If he lies, it will be obvious to you. So far you are still learning, so time is of no concern. It is set to 100. In actual play there will be much less. You can track the flow of time in the right part of the screen, in the log part of the screen. Also, you can see the first goal that you must accomplish in the questions part. Crime. Theft. Sentence. The chopping off a hand. Appearance. A skinny man with some bald spots on his head and deeply set terrified eyes. Features. The scribe works in the palace as one of the younger scribes. His frock is now crumpled and soaked in sweat. Objective 1. Did the scribe have any assistants? Your father wants you to figure out for yourself if the scribe has an assistant with his crime in the palace. The scribe insists he is only one to blame for the theft. Kingdom of Fear and Pain is how the poets call this place. Call it Cells of Truth. This is my personal kingdom, my domain, the dungeon in which I spend the majority of my life. It hardens me, cheers me up, and elevates me over the misery of the average. This is not because I enjoy the suffering of others, not at all. It is because I'm able to leave this place alive. I don't really care that everyone else leaves this place as a lifeless corpse. So far you are still learning, so time is no concern. Set to 100. Okay. Let's ask a question. During the interrogation, you must first make sure the victim understands what kind of answers you should give. It's better to be polite when asking. If the victim has reached a certain condition, it becomes very easy to extract all the necessary information at too much effort and then just have fun for the remaining time before the execution. What do you mean fun? What do you mean fun? Did he have any assistants? Do it.
Answer me.
You bend over the tortured chair. Did anyone assist you with your crime? Did you have any accomplices? You speak in your regular voice, dull and quiet, knowing that your height and bulk scare even townsfolk during the daytime. In this darkness, you probably look all the more terrifying. Why all this? The scribe whispers, his voice breaking. I have already pleaded guilty. I have stolen. You inhale the stale air of the basement, remembering what truth from the mouth this person tastes like. Burton. Oh, wait. Your father continues, addressing you alone. Of course, we haven't spent so many years training you to use all these instruments just for the fun of it. He nods towards the table. Conversations alone are not enough in our trade. All the questions, checks, and tricks take a lot of time, which we usually don't have that much. But thankfully, we're not in a hurry today. You nod and your father orders you to examine the prisoner's condition. Anyone will give up at some point. Their body or mind will betray them. He says, you should understand what you are going to influence, body or mind. What is more important right now? The prisoner looks at you tiredly. He's not in the best shape after my interrogation, so hold off on torturing his flesh. Father bends over you, explaining this. But he had a chance to rest and relax while I was going to get you. Memories of pain can be far more effective than the pain itself. Try to intimidate him. Maybe this will be enough. The victim's mental condition is too good. You haven't got your answer. Anyone will give up at some point. Blah, 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 blah. Threaten. Victims with a good imagination or weak nerves do not really require torture. It's enough to simply tell them about torture and about the sufferings of past victims, show them the tools and present an indifferent outlook. Sometimes the victim will go insane from the very expectation of pain. This doesn't happen frequently. Threatening with pain without causing any is quite merciful. It's exhausting and requires the combined efforts of 2 people. Victim's mental damage 5 times 2. Stamina loss 25. I see. So I have to moderate my stamina with how much damage I do to him. Do it.
I'll cut you into pieces.
You reach for the sharp tongs, bring them closer to the burning coals, getting ready to hit them. Then you shake your head and put the tongs away. Choose another instrument and show it to your father. Ripping pieces of meat off his body is better left for later. Fork of a sinner would be a much better choice in this situation. Father smiles approvingly, turning to describe you say, "This is very simple. This fork has 4 spikes, 2 on each end. Look, 2 prop up your chin and the other 2 are placed under the collarbone. Doesn't hurt that much, but in a few minutes your neck will become numb, your vision will get blurry. This is because blood will not be able to circulate freely. You will want to lower your head, even just a little bit, and you won't even notice when the spikes come out underneath your tongue." That's, ooh, can we not? Ooh. Okay. Prisoner's eyes widen with fear. He rolls his pupils, desperately shaking his head. "Please!" He's trying to catch your father's glance. "You promised me mercy. I have pleaded guilty and you've promised." Not a bad choice, your father says, if he didn't hear the pleas for mercy. But not the quickest one. It will be much easier to use the pear. Yes, this one. The prisoner, shaking with fear, casts a sidelong look at the tools, trying to understand what your father is pointing at. Oh yes, you remember. When it gets into the body, not through the mouth of course, it's possible to open the blades from the inside as wide as I desire. Nobody can handle that. The pain is so strong, not a single sinner would desire to switch places with you, swirling in the hottest flames of hell. Ugh. No, the scribe screams, like a dog with its tail stuck between doors. I confess, I was acting alone. Nobody helped me. I only bribed the guard once, so that he would look away when I was leaving the office with the money. The colour of his words is still the same, pure, smooth, gold-hued. But he also wasn't lying when he mentioned mercy. My father did promise him something. Now he is silent, and so are you. The prisoner looks straight at you, and his eyes shine with something that looks most of all like relief. Look, your father continues quietly. His words are meant for the prisoner. We haven't done anything yet, but we already have the answer. This only means that the question was not of much importance. We would have found out about the guard anyway. Making them plead guilty in more serious crimes, threats and intimidation, is not enough if the victim is full of energy. Use them to follow up your success. Press the victim harder, but it usually only takes a lot of time, which we never have enough of. So always think how to better spend the time you have. Use it with the utmost efficiency. Besides, this requires the effort of 2, and the assistant is very old and will need to rest, even after a trifle like this. You see. Hi Paul, how are you? How are you doing? You're lucky that today we're working together. We will not have to wait. Let's continue. You nod. You have met with the assistant, and know that he is very old and weak. And what now? Glad you're doing well, Paul. Glad you're doing well. Father smiles with anticipation. Now we should move on to the most important question. He whispers a question into your ear. Objective number 1 is reached. Okay. During the interrogation, you must first make sure the victim understands what kind of answers. Okay. Has he planned a conspiracy against the king?
Answer me.
Oh, that was loud. That hurt. Have you been conspiring against the king, you asked the prisoner? You're a bit lost. There was no mention of conspiracy before, so if the question is so important, why hasn't your father taken care of it himself? The goldish aura around the prisoner flinches as he twitches in his restraints. Have you lost your mind? Does he want to scream at you? As a bigger fear has overwhelmed his fear of you? This is madness. Yes, I have stolen. What has this to do with conspiracy? Do I look like a traitor? You don't know what to say because the smell of his fear is too strong. Can't sense any lies in his words or in his breath. Of course it will not be easy, says your father behind your back. Conviction in treason means death. In situations like these, prisoners only agree to talk when the point of resistance itself is broken. When it becomes easier to plead guilty and die rather than to keep denying guilt. I've already told you there are many ways to get the answer. Methods of influence vary primarily by how much time you spend on them, or how much energy they consume. In addition, different methods affect the prisoner differently. Some of them affect the body, while others affect the mind, and of course, there are some that affect both at the same time. You run back over various types of torture techniques, trying to recall each one and to understand which one is easier. There are too many and you get confused. We're not in a hurry, your father smiles. We can start with a simple and boring torture technique with noise. By the way, we've not seen this chamber yet. Oh, this is going to be terrible. The victim's physical and mental conditions are too good. You haven't got your answer. Why is that? Oh. Oh. Oh no. Oh no. I have a torture section now. Strong. Stable. Torture with noise. Oh. This method is so boring that I really do it myself. The victim is placed in a tiny cell with very thick walls and just enough space for one person to fit in. There's a huge bell attached to the ceiling and connected to a mechanical device which, when activated, will constantly swing the bell. Of course, someone has to check on the victim from time to time. Some people are very sensitive to noise and tend to turn into drooling idiots pretty quickly. This is 50 mental damage. Do it. After you let the scribe out of the room with the bell and put him back into the chair, it takes him a few moments to react to your voice. His previously white collar is spotted with drops of blood from his bitten lip. You have to repeat yourself 3 times and only then he starts to shake his head. Even though his skull should be tearing from the pain. No, 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 I swear on anything you want, I'm not a traitor, I would never. You see, your father said, it has obviously become harder for him to resist. Even though he is not ready to sing his death sentence yet, he is still young and the strong body is resisting the weakness of the mind. What should we do now? We can try torture with first, you say. Bring one of the methods you remember from your lessons? Perfect, get to it. A staggering victim comes out of the cell with a heavy, firmly shut door. Tears is falling from their eyes, faces distorted by pain. Even the shortest visit to the bellroom causes unbearable suffering, damaging the eardrums. The victim will be hearing the ringing of bells in their head until their death, which should come shortly. However, your own efforts have been minimal here. The victim's mental condition has worsened. Okay, this is a time-consuming but very simple torture technique. It can be done by a capable assistant, which cannot be said about my assistant. With just a little bit of effort, the person's entrails will be burning from the saline which is injected through the funnel into the victim's mouth. Constant urge to throw up prevents normal breathing. Noticed many times how much more talkative the victim becomes if you place a cup of water in her immediate vicinity. This sounds terrible. Okay. Ooh. Okay. After 4 hours and 3 gallons of brine forcefully poured into the scribe's throat, you listen to his wheezing with some doubts. He is pale white and can't hold the vomit, but he does not seem to be broken for good. A lot of time has passed, your father starts to explain. He's physically exhausted, but his mind has managed to recover. Sometimes one torture reverses the effects of the previous one. One nail driving out another. Nausea has made headache and the pain in his ears fade for a bit. Now we can easily fix it, but remember, while the body is suffering, the mind is recovering and vice versa. If we leave one part of the personality in peace, be it body or brain, it will slowly recover. You inhale tiredly. You haven't had a morsel since morning, and work in this hot and damp dungeon has turned out to be difficult. You must take care of your own health, your father reminds you. Remember, son, rest is a very important part of our job. Endurance is the best tool against stubborn criminals. Go upstairs and take a rest. A bit confused. Your father doesn't look tired at all while he escorts you to the exit, grabs your shoulder and says, "Think about this. The prisoner has recovered from your first torture while you were torturing him with the second one. Imagine what would happen if you left him in peace while you were resting. If you simply confined yourself to asking him questions." Frown. You haven't thought about that. Do you think the conversations with the executioner are scary? Most of my victims can't wait for the relief the conversation brings. And were I to live for a moment, every person has some hidden sources of energy. If you give them an opportunity, they will use them. This is why an executioner needs an assistant. You won't allow your efforts to be lost in vain. You won't let the victim rest while you're away. See. Your father shakes his head. My own assistant, well, I do not trust him. He is too weak and gets too excited sometimes. But now I'm in his role. You can go and have a rest while I make sure to keep our guest busy. Father looks at you to make sure you understand, and then we will force him to confess. Every victim has parameters of mental and physical recovery. A victim recovers these parameters each unit of time if given the opportunity. If the victim is not being tortured at all and simply being talked to or left alone for a while, recovery proceeds at double the rate. I see. I see. The most noticeable effects of this torture are the wheezing sounds the victim starts to make when breathing, as well as the victim's inability to move due to the cutting pain in the stomach. The victim's mental condition is improved. The victim's physical condition is worsened. I can deny arrest to the victim. Oh. This is what I must do. There are many ways in which a lack of skill could ruin all efforts invested in torture. The surest among them is to let the victim rest. Within these walls, rest is a rare luxury. The tormentor possesses it, but the victim doesn't. This is a big difference. The victim has no control over anything. She's completely helpless. The victim's only way out of the cell should be in giving correct answers to the questions. This doesn't do much. Ooh, he does not look okay. Please believe me, this is the first thing you hear when you get back with a full stomach and a strong desire to finish what you started. I'm not guilty. Why do you keep asking me the same thing over and over again? I don't know anything about any conspiracy. You look at your father inquiringly. He has the same gift as you. How come he doesn't see that this prisoner is convinced of his own innocence? Without even looking, your father punches the scribe's jaw and turns to you. This won't do. You look like you're asleep on your feet. Go and take another rest. We have no need to hurry, do we? The scribe frowns at the two of you, licking blood off his split lip. You turn away from the stubborn golden halo that surrounds him and walk out of the chamber. There are several simple ways to keep the victim busy while you're absent. For example, you can hang the victim by the arms, so he can only reach the ground with the tips of his toes, and is required to constantly flex his muscles to be able to keep balance and not dislocate his joints. The victim's mental condition is worsened. Okay, so I need to arrest the victim again. Fair enough. After a brief nap on a cot in an adjacent chamber, you wash yourself with ice-cold water and return to the torture chamber much refreshed. Your father eyes you over appraisingly, then nods. In the future, you will have to manage your condition yourself and choose the time to rest in advance. At any moment, you will be able to let an assistant do the job, be it helping the victim or keeping them in the right condition. Grabbing the prisoner by the hair, he roughly turns his head towards the light. I made sure that your efforts were not in vain while you were resting. Now we need to continue the job. Your father suggests you remind the scribe what is expected of him. That is, to repeat the question and describe in detail what is to follow. Now it will be easy to extract the answer. Go on while he is exhausted and weakened. Interrogation. Questions, 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 and then some more questions in circles. This is tiring. Everyone starts making mistakes at some point. And these mistakes are strings leading through. This process is humane but very exhausting and requires a partner.
Start from the beginning.
You and your father circle over your victim, changing the form, but not the meaning of the question, asking again and again. Are you engaged in the conspiracy? In the end, the scribe tiredly drops his head, shuddering in quiet sobs. The father nods approvingly. Hey, Kazi, how you doing? You balk on the armrest of the chair, looming over the scribe, and slowly go over different methods you are going to use to inflict pain upon him. Until he tells you that he knows about the conspiracy. No, the prisoner sobs. You'll not make me say it. Don't you realize that it will mean death for me and my family? Poor scribe. Scribe's fucked. The word make is dark and spiky compared to the rest of his speech. Of course you'll be able to make him say it, as soon as you find the right method. He's not scared enough yet, your father says quietly. He's still strong, even though he looks weak. People like this have a steel kernel inside of them. We'll have to work some more before there is any point in asking more questions. He nods at you, ordering you to start. Pretty good, I think I joined... I'm just torturing a scribe. You know how it is, I'm torturing a scribe. I'm doing okay. You look at your father insecurely and he points impatiently at the scribe with his finger. He's already exhausted physically, now you need to work on his mind. Start with needles underneath his nails. His body will be able to recover from the torture with first, this type of pain will weaken his mind. Here are the needles, here is the finger holder. Your father opens the drawer and pulls out a strange device, similar to brass knuckles with belts. Now start. Oof. You know, we could not. We could not. The victim's mental condition has improved. The victim's mental condition is too good. You haven't got your answer. Needles under the nails. This is how I want to spend my day. Humans are afraid of pain, even if it doesn't cause them real harm. Prolonged pain is able to drive even the strongest insane. It is very important to monitor the moment when the victim is approaching insanity. Madmen are quite useless in my work. To not get tired from the victim's screams, it is best to use a gag. Screaming brings the victim momentary relief, so why not deprive them of it too? Yeah, let's just deprive them of everything. I lose sanity. I lose sanity from doing this. That's good. Oh, those are good sound effects. Those are lovely. You fix the scribe's fingers in the holder and concentrate on your work. The prisoner moans and there's nothing human in this sound. Only the suffering of a wounded animal. It's bone-chilling. Never in your life have you inflicted such pain on anyone with your own hands. But you continue. At last the scribe arrives out, weeping. I have confessed already. I had been stealing the whole time. That lad has been hanged because of me. I'm a bad man, please, but you've promised. I'm no conspirator. At some point, his pleas irritate you so much that you drive the needles deeper than you were going to, just so that he stops imploring and resumes wailing. The world around you fills with Swedish haze. For a single moment, it seems like you're watching your work from behind your own shoulder. Okay then. But the feeling quickly passes as your father comes, pats you on the back. You alright? I feel weird. You try to understand what has just happened to you. Your head feels stuffed with straw. So what you been up to? Anything exciting going on? Your father frowns but nods towards a corner. See a bucket there. Go. I brought it in case your stomach would overcome you, lest you would foul everything in here. You double over the bucket and notice, despite nausea and dizziness, that it is strategically placed so that the prisoner doesn't see anything. Not that he is paying attention anyway. The father leans against the damp wall next to you. Inserting needles under fingernails is very painful torture, but the subject won't suffer any serious trauma. There's nothing to worry about so much. Yeah, nothing to worry about. You straighten up with some difficulty and nod, wiping your mouth. Your father gives you a flask. The oil and bitter smell sounds familiar. The tincture of the golden root is an expensive but effective remedy to recuperate. This tedious work would be tiring if it wasn't for the comfortable fixation of the victim's fingers. Once again, you catch yourself thinking that all the instruments and devices are in amazing shape, calibrated, cleaned, and sharpened. Looks like the assistant is taking great care of your father's collection. The victim's mental condition has worsened. Oh, what am I doing now? Optional? Oh, I don't know. Let's do what father says. Items. What's this? What is this? Oh, is this the golden road? This is the golden road. Okay. Let's take the golden route. It'll be fine. Drink the tincture in a couple of sips and feel how the pleasant warmth flows inside. It does not matter whether you like it or not. Your father waits until you tidy yourself up, walks back to the chair. We must proceed until he signs a confession. Our goal is to destroy the will to resist both in his body and in his mind. When his body the stronger of the two, he would achieve more by simply beating the hell out of him, instead of working with needles. Now he is in equal shape both physically and mentally, but as we can now see, this is not enough. He's going to persist until the end. We could use drowning, you interject, or perhaps it's time-consuming and very tiresome, but it would likely bring him into the condition in which we can extort from him the confession. You are happy to have found the correct answer, but instantly you see that your father has something different in mind. Let's act more forceful. Imagine we are running out of time. It's evening already. Let your talent manifest to the full. Choose cutting off a limb or blinding. Could we not? Could we not? You're annoyed by the walls. They seem to weigh on your shoulders and press you into the stone floor. The torture chamber is way too quiet. The father is waiting for your decision. Wait, I have a decision? Oh, sorry. I have atrocities. I have atrocities to choose from. Oh, good. I've got atrocities. Screw you, torches. I've got atrocities. I don't seem to be able to cut off his limbs. I have to blind him. That's delightful. That's delightful. Sight is the main sense with which we perceive the world. When someone loses their ability to see, they become completely dependent on others. Blinding through eye boiling, treating an eye with a hot iron, is not a life-threatening process, but I highly value the psychological effect. How about no? I'm towards no. Like I'm a hard no on the eyeballing. The eye boiling. It seems like a no situation to me. You see, you're leaning towards a yes, I'm leaning towards a no, but this is a tutorial and you're telling me I have to do this? I don't... What sounds are they gonna... Those sounds are what they're gonna make. Okay, those sounds are delightful, great. Everything happens so fast, you hardly notice the sweetness at the tip of your tongue and the haze that surrounds you. You carefully bring a red-hot iron rod to the victim's eyes. A special head ring equipped with clamps prevents him from closing his lids. And wait, pressing his head to the back of the armchair and holding tight. The scribe gulps silently, then emits a trail of sound that is a half moan, half screech. His entire body starts to tremble and his moaning grows into awful dry sobs. He evidently can't understand what is happening to him. What is it he has paid this price for? Your father scrutinizes the burns, then erects himself. Most of the time we inflict pain, but this pain is gone and forgotten. Give our victims time and they'll find strength to live on. But mutilation. Oh, this is something utterly different. Every injury undermines health and sanity drastically, but the victim will never be able to recover completely. Why? We're just trying to get a confession from a guy who clearly isn't guilty. Your father points at the pair of blind eyes. When the interrogation is long, the questions are many, the subject is stubborn. You should resort to mutilation as early as possible. As early as possible! Okay then. This will help to control the victim's condition. As you know, we must first and foremost make sure that he will survive the new injuries and die at the block, not in our dungeons. You look at the scribe. But if his body is already at its limit, won't it be enough to subject him to cross-interrogation? Let's try, your father nods approvingly. Go on. You wipe sweat off your eyes. Your victim will never again have the ability to do the same. Screaming from unbearable pain in the head, the poor thing is staring at something on the ceiling with white, deformed eyeballs. Turning slightly away, you breathe in the smell of fire and hot iron while contemplating your next move for this interrogation. The victim has 4 senses left, and you're planning to involve all of them if necessary. The victim's mental condition is worsened. The victim's physical condition is worsened. Okay, what do you want me to do now? Cross-interrogation? Yes. Questions. Okay. Let's see.
Start from the beginning.
You flank the tortured armchair on both sides, ready to drive the victim through the list of questions again. Already at the second round, you realize that his resistance has been broken for good. Please, no more, whispers the prisoner haltingly. I confess, I will sign everything. You hear a scrolling of pen over parchment, hideous dissonance with the prisoner's tortured heartbeat. The only words you can believe you hear him mumble in the end. Whatever it takes, but stop it. The father rolls up the confession and seals it with wax. The work is almost finished, he says weightily, putting his hand down on your shoulder. Now, just the last step. Feel smarty in your eyes. The chamber is dark and stuffy. Smoke from the torches and the brazier seems to thicken. You feel equally stuffy and cold upon hearing the next words of your father. This is far from common, but at times people may conceal something even when they've got nothing to lose. So even if you think you've extracted everything from your victim and there's nothing more to conceal, check once again, as they say. Better safe than sorry. What are we gonna do to this guy? Shall I continue? You ask him distrustfully. Off with his hand and we'll have an answer to the final question. Your father answers indifferently, paying no attention to the expression on your face. Please, don't. See, I won't stand anymore. Have I not told you everything already? What else? The scribe's voice reaches from the armchair, but your father ignores him, fixing his eyes on you. Don't worry, I have more experience. I see his condition better than you do. I know his inner reserves better than he knows himself. Go on, I will take all the responsibility. Okay. Hey, I can just click conclude. Father looks at you with an unhappy expression. Do you know something I don't? Suddenly shake your head, not trusting your ability to talk. Do it. Whatever the cost, we have to make him confess. I don't want to cut his hand off, is the situation we have here. Oh, here's my atrocities button. Let me click the atrocities button, shall I? What is better, to lose an arm or a leg? It is a philosophical choice. Loss of a body part is followed by bleeding, painful shock, and incredible stress for the whole body. Besides, a person who has lost a body part also loses the illusion that he will be able to leave this cell unchanged. This is due to the realization that something irreversible has happened to him, even if he manages to leave the courtroom alive. I guess I should do it myself. That was not a sound I wanted to hear today. Step away from the armchair, trying to understand when exactly everything went wrong. The haze dissolves, and once again you see everything with your own eyes. Not as if from outside, but everything around is dusty with tiredness. A stump of a man with no eyes, no hand, no dignity is lying amidst the torture chamber. You look at the corpse, and the nausea becomes unbearable. You dash for the bucket and throw up. Your father watches you calmly. Here's the answer to the most important question. As for this man, who is not long for this world anyway, with this he departs, leaving you alone with the corpse. Oh, thanks! Thanks, Dad! Thanks. Thanks! Milgram 23. See. When your father says everything is going well, it most likely is, even if it seems to you that it is not so. This is how you're used to thinking. Whether you like it or not, you must continue the interrogation until you get the answers you need, says your father. Despite your gift, you cannot explain why his words evoke the strongest response in your soul. Let's see. Can I unlock anything? No. Okay. Proceed. This happened more than a year ago, and you haven't entered the torture chamber since. You practice using your instruments on corpses and animals. Only very recently have you stopped feeling the disgusting sweetness at the tip of your tongue every time you remember the interrogation chamber and that ghost-like haze in your head. Try to sleep a little before your first day on the job. I don't want to do my first day on the job. Could we not make me do this? Oof. 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 Okay. You walk steps familiar since childhood, for the first time as royal executioner. Makes you feel the burden of great responsibility. You've been trained for this your whole life. So, am I going to be friendly today? Am I going to be a friendly person? Day 3. Okay, let's start the day. Oh good, I gained stamina and sanity and experience and health. Get up before dawn, almost with relief, exhausted from the night visions and cruel nightmares that lurk under your eyelids. So you have a job to do. Your only advisor now is your father's diary. Visit the royal prison. The stairs are unpleasantly slippery under your feet. These stones have been polished smooth by countless steps from the guards, criminals and your predecessors. The royal executioners, one of whom is now your dead father. So starting today, the black red cloak of the executioner adorns your shoulders. Your new job consists of getting the right answers, information and signatures from a criminal, before the verdict is given, and of executing the prisoner afterwards. Night, Kazi! It is a very interesting game. It's a little bit intense. But it's interesting. Bye, Kazi! Let's see. This job is hard, dirty, and frowned upon by people, but it is of such importance to the kingdom. You go down the stairs into the torture room. Bit grim, but other than that, it's nice. Well, it seems interesting. It seems well written. It seems well thought out. Bye! You go down the stairs into the torture room, carefully touching the cold stone walls. When you were a kid, your father's tales about his work made you imagine this place to be much darker and louder, somewhat like hell. When you got here for the first time as a journeyman, you were shocked to realize how different this place was from what you had imagined. You remember that feeling of surprise every time you entered this spacious dungeon with its low walls, closed oak doors, and constant drafts, carrying a barely noticeable smell of rotting flesh. But the place is well lit with torches placed at even intervals along the walls, and the floor is covered with clean straw. Of course, now you know more about your working place. This gives you some mixed feelings. Right now, one of them is stronger than others. Law is cruel, but it's needed for people's protection. Law is a lie. You can beat a confession out of anyone. Torture is just a way to get information. I want to go with this one, because, that shows me. The confession you're supposed to get from the criminal is just a way to keep people from rebelling against authority. Whether you do your job or not, you'll have to execute your victim. Your only difference is the people's anger, which will fall on you first. Hear out the assistant. Your assistant is waiting. Gain the experience? His eyes are flickering with excitement. He is holding a stack of papers, cases of those under your care. You've come on time, but he rushes to jump from his stool as if you were late. The bitter smell of his sweat is overwhelming, even though the reception room is far from hot. Wasting no time on greetings or formalities, he hands you the papers. The very top folder bears a short label, the gamekeeper. Examine the papers and go to the prisoner. Hello, gamekeeper. Okay. Crime, poaching. Sentence, death by hanging. Appearance, a hardy middle-aged man with grey in his beard and strong arms. Now twisted and bound tightly with a thick rope. His bushy eyebrows make him look stern. The paleness of his face betrays his anxiety. Gamekeeper has been serving the Duke for over 20 years. He is widowed and lives with his daughter. They live in a forest house not far from the place where the dead deer was found. Duke's men found hides and horns of deer killed a while ago in his house. Seems that Gamekeeper has been poaching for a while. Court will be held next morning. Questions. Objective number 1. Sign the confession. Judge demands that Gamekeeper signs a confession of his guilt before the public hearing. Gamekeeper is stubborn in denying his guilt, even though all the evidence shows otherwise. Signature on the already prepared scroll with confessions is the only thing you need to get from this man. Objective number 2. Did you have any accomplices? Duke's men told you that on the crime scene there were signs of a large hunt. Could that be that Gamekeeper was hunting only for himself and his daughter? Maybe he had accomplices, and you want to prove your suspicion and find out who they are. Objective number 3. Where is the Gamekeeper's daughter? Not like she has anything to do with the crime, Not like the judge cares about her, but she was in Gamekeeper's house. This is strange. Where could she have gone in the middle of the forest? Okay. So, what are my options? I have many options. Oh geez, I have many options. Help the victim to heal wounds. Oh, I guess I need to do that if I'm killing my victim. Let's just start with atrocities, shall we? Let's just blind him. Am I not allowed to cut the limbs off? Am I not allowed to cut his limbs off? Why am I not allowed to cut his limbs off? Can I arrest the victim? Okay, let's ask him a question just to get started. It wastes time, but that's about it. Main objective, side objective. What's your daughter? Just tell me what your daughter is.
Answer me.
Oof. Where is the gamekeeper's daughter? Gamekeeper spits on your feet. Why do you want to know about my daughter? Why? To hang her next to me? Good hell. We've already signed our death sentence. When I'm gone, who will protect and feed me? Victim's physical and mental conditions are too good. You haven't got your answer. Okay. I only have 20 time total. I see. Okay. So let's it's strong. We're gonna have to not be nice to him. Let's torture him with noise. I don't want to do this, but let's do it anyway. That's 4 time. His mental condition is not good. Okay, so he has been belled. This is much less time, but it will hurt my stamina. Let's just destroy his mental state. Oof. Oof. Okay. Let's ask him a question, shall we? Where is your daughter?
Answer me.
Wow. Your mental condition is too good. Seriously, it's too good. Let's threaten him. I don't have the stamina for this, actually. So I'm going to need to go rest. We'll send the assistant to do it and I'll go rest. Okay, so I have rested. I'm down to 11 time. That's not good. You've rested. When you return to the interrogation chamber, you notice that your assistant is not there. The victim is in the same deplorable state you left him. Most likely the old man has just stepped out. Hip with the instruments is in perfect order. The assortment of needles is cleaned with blood, and on top of your writing desk, right upon the victim's dossier, resides a rag with the leftovers of the meat pie. Seems like your assistant prefers to take his meals at work, and by the way, now you realize why he always reeks of old onion. Frowning fastidiously, you've thrown the rag off the desk. Most likely your father wouldn't have liked such carelessness. Plan to follow him in his log of order. Okay. I need to get these answers. From him. Hey, would you like some drowning, buddy? drowning, or should I rather say torture with water has two advantages. The helpless human body that is fighting for survival is in an alien environment. It's quickly draining its stamina reserves, while the fear of drowning exhausts the victim's psyche. Let's go for it. Boom. You're a bit tired and soaking wet, despite the dense apron and elbow-length gloves, but you have achieved excellent results. The victim continues to cough, trying to get rid of the remaining water. His lungs, his body twitches involuntarily. Let's ask him a question, shall we? Did you have any...
Answer me.
Gamekeeper's already lost his voice from all the screaming, but continues to stubbornly shake his head when you ask a question. Spreads blood and saliva, leaving spots on your pants and apron. Who is he protecting? How many different tortures he is ready to endure for his accomplices? The right question is, which torture will he not be able to handle? Well, this is not going to be fun. Okay. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. But you left me no choice. Oh, I didn't want to do it. Didn't want to do it. Let's ask a question, shall we? Did you have any accomplices? Actually, let's do cross-interrogation.
Start from the beginning.
I do this alone, I swear. I know this forest and the trails Duke's hunters rarely use. For winter, my brother joins me. He lives in the north. There's a famine in their village when it's cold. I hunt only for my family and have never let the poachers to hunt. I was so careful. My only aid was my brother, but this time we have nothing to do with it. Saw him last week in the tavern by the south gates. He said that he could not visit us because his landlord sent him to the capital of an errand. Hasn't even been in the forest. Oh. Well, that's unfortunate for you. I've just cut your arm off. Or something. I'm running out of time. I don't have the stamina. I guess I have to take a rest. Breton? Yeah, let's just beat the shit out of him, I guess. Your muscles buzz unpleasantly, and your finger bones hurt. You've been working without your new gloves, not wanting to stain them with blood. Your victim is doing much worse, however. He is wheezing and quietly groaning, huddled up in a torture chair. Oof. Sign the confession, buddy.
Answer me.
Okay, you're not going to sign the confession. Is that what I'm hearing? Well, then I need to rest. I don't want to rest, but I have to. I'm running seriously out of time. So I'm going to have to beat the living shit out of you again. Don't want to do it, but I need this question answered.
Answer me.
Well, he refuses to. He refuses to. I don't have his mental condition down. I am out of time. Nope. In the last moment, you catch a bright, almost ecstatic expression on the assistant's face and tell him to start cleaning the chamber. Prison guards will take care of the gamekeeper until the execution. I didn't get it. Walk up to the office of the royal judge, which is connected to the courtroom. After a short knock, you were invited to enter almost immediately. The judge is reading a massive grimoire, slowly moving his paper knife along the lines with his thick curls. Clean face and soft, malty body. He looks too young to occupy such an important position. Noticing your presence, the judge stops reading and looks up. Well, I see I have failed. Greet him politely. Whether you like it or not, the judge is the person your fate largely depends on. His advice can both help and harm you, at least the king trusts him. Give him the gamekeeper's case. Place the gamekeeper's file in a smooth marble table, a painting of a dry old man in a black judicial robe with cruel eyes is staring at you from the wall. The judge first examines the files, then starts to closely examine you, almost sniffing. Do not shake off the feeling that the old man from the painting is also examining you. We haven't been introduced yet, the judge finally says, while pressing a perfumed handkerchief to his cheek. I have been the royal judge for 5 years. We'll be working very closely, young man. Did you want to ask me something, or am I imagining things? Whose idea was the Lord that almost got me executed? Whose idea was, surprisingly, the judge keeps a serene smile. The king embodies the law, and I interpret it for his majesty to the best of my humble ability. But both of us are only its keepers. The realm itself was against you. I am afraid that however much I tried, I could not have been able to change anything. It was the law that descended upon your head and decided the following events in such a dramatic manner. If you think that the king has set this all up on purpose, you are mistaken. And it continued. So he says, smiling at you with only his eyes, the condemned will be executed anyway. In this case, the king is only interested in this man's guilty plea. His Majesty highly values attention to finer details as a repentance of a criminal. That's right, when you're talking to them, the text that looks blue is a lie. With the gamekeeper file close to him. When his left hand reaches for the sheet of parchment containing the gamekeeper's confession, which was duly authorized by your seal, you shudder, as if with a spasm of pain. So wrong and unnatural is his movement, the judge's hand really looks weird. Covered in black silk glove, it appears very angular and rigid. Might be an old wound, but the judge is at ease, as if long used to this feature of his. Gamekeeper's signature has not been obtained, he says. Hope you realize how unfortunate this is. People may believe that his majesty has ordered the death of an innocent man. The king himself would be far from pleased. Should you fall into disfavor with him, or madden the crowd, or another mistake, your career will be finished for good, not just your career. You nod. In his diary, your father wrote something to a similar effect. You may prefer to finish quickly, or ignore the torture part completely. You may even abstain from going down to the cell. You may drive the victim insane or kill him. The judge continues in a friendly tone. It is all up to you, but be careful not to incur the king's displeasure. Remember, you control the mood of the crowd. Even if you haven't obtained the confession, you can always try to calm down the common folk in performing the execution in a spectacular, brutal manner. He goes towards the door with his left hand. Silver rings gleam on his stiff fingers. The slightest movements of air brings to you the sweet smell of a dead marshmallow. Go, rest a bit and start preparations for the execution. Don't forget to visit the priest. He frowns. Everything has to be perfect. Remember, first impression is the most important one. I'll thank him. Thank you for knowledge. The judge smiles again, hearing your words, and again starts to look at someone too young for his position. Now go, he orders. I wish you luck. And in a short splash of anger, you realize that he really wants you to do the job well. Your curiosity is still bothering you when you bow and head towards the door. Why is he treating you like that? Already in the doorway, you notice a slight flickering. Turn around to look at the person bending over the government papers. You have a feeling that his hands and face are being lit by a candle fire. After noticing you staring, Judge frowns and impatiently knocks his fingers on his chin. You blink and the vision of the light disappears. You bow again and leave his office. Finish this scene to exit the game. Okay. We're going to the Palace Square. The sun is burning at its zenith when you arrive at the Palace Square in your new apron with the embroidered crown. The onlookers gaze, rip into you like 1,000 little fishhooks. Your darkest fear has happened, right here already, and now you feel nothing under this intense attention. Sit on the scaffold. The clean boards of the scaffold slightly stick to the soles of the boots. You can't get rid of the thought that in this very place yesterday your father lost his head because of a strange, ridiculous accusation. Behind your back, the assistant is fussing about with the rope in anticipation. Previously, it was you who stood behind your father during executions, watching his meager actions ready to do everything he said. For the first time in your life, you have to carry out the execution by yourself. It causes nausea. There is a strange feeling inside that you can hardly name. Most of all, it looks like hatred. You're trying to stop your nervous trembling. You're bursting with anger inside. You hate the king, the dangerously observed laws, and make it so you have to play the role of a scarecrow near the throne. You were used like a dog on a chain, or like a new tool to replace a broken one. You promise yourself this will not last long. Give a sigh of regard. Guards almost drag the gamekeeper up the stairs, push him in the back. He falls and tries to crawl away, but you step towards him. The crowd is going crazy. Someone from the first row throws a rotten piece of fruit in his face. Dragging him off the edge of the scaffold, you realize you will have to keep the old man from hanging himself too soon. He has no strength left, no pride, to be able to meet his death with dignity. He obediently waits while you put the noose around his neck. This is how mortally sick animals act. Crowd gathers around the scaffold. One look down the scaffold makes you shiver. Chaos level increased. People are being intertwined in horrific imagery. Waves are rising, going over the scaffold. One old woman who rushed forward falls and gets trampled by everyone around her. The crowd rages and continues to trample her, filling the town square with the sound scorching as they lift and lower their feet into the bloody mess that the woman's body has turned into. The crowd moves in a rhythm as if it was performing a ritual dance. Faces distorted with a frenzied thirst. Choose the rope. Usually it is the executioner's duty to choose whether the victim's death is quick or slow. As a thief, the gamekeeper deserves the noose, not the axe. You have to decide whether to use a short or a long drop. Of course, all these details are meaningless now. The gamekeeper is already dead, so you only need to use his body for the world to see. You better look threatening enough so the crowd dares not attack you. Having prepared the noose for the corpse, you wait for the signal to start and recall the nuances that your father had instructed you about. The long rope is for death, the short rope is for a longer death. If you hag someone and kick the stool from underneath their feet, they'll be dying for a very long time, shaking painfully. In addition, if the rope is not tightened hard enough, the agony will be even longer and much more horrible. People call this terrifying sight Dance of the Hanged Man, which is one of their favourite entertainments of the common folk. The longer a person dies hanging by a short rope, the happier the observers. If you prefer a long rope and open floor hatch, death comes instantly, because the neck is broken by the force of the drop. The most important thing here is to measure the right amount of rope, depending on the height and weight of the criminal. If the rope is too long, the noose will pull so hard that the head will be separated from the body, which is a sure sign of an inexperienced executioner with short rope. The crowd laughs, discussing how much longer the dance of the hangman will last. Sanity -10, chaos level -1, experience +1. Some people are making bets. You know that whoever guesses the moment of death down to the last breath is considered to be chosen by the goddess of luck. You are not surprised to hear that many people are counting aloud while the gamekeeper is twitching in the noose. With a red face and bulging eyes, thanks to his agony, the people gathered here will feel a bit happier and alive. Finish the scene. Unusually empty house greets you with cold and emptiness. Now you'll be living here all alone. You sense that something is wrong when you near the house. There's a steel grey stripe with a strange smell, belonging neither to the assistant nor the guardian, nor the ones who searched the house the night before father's execution. You commit this cool, self-confident smell to memory, move your gaze along into the porch. An uninvited guest has put a sheet of paper in the space under the door. You go inside the house and spread the letter on the table. The neat, sharp letters smell of metal, and the expensive paper blinks dimly. Kind sir, I offer you my condolences deep from my heart, and by the request of my friends. The way your father was treated is shocking, with monstrous cruelty. That is the life under the tyrant's heel. There is a difference between the sternness that a just monarch must show towards his subjects, and the permissiveness inherent in the madman in power. Yes, that's the life in the country which happens to be our homeland, but it is within our power to change that. It will take not 1 or 2 days, but people will rise from their knees and will fight for a better life for everyone. If you find yourself in agreement with such an opinion and ready to take arms other than the tool of your trade, then you should find a good fellow who takes the questions of the revolution's friends in his arms. You can find him in the tavern in the palace square. Should you find yourself unable to sit on your hands silently, ready to act for us and our comrades to see the dawn of justice and freedom, then the same man will advise you on a course of action to benefit the common cause. Take this letter from prying eyes. It will open many of the city's doors to you. It's not signed, but instead of the signature there is a symbol drawn in fine strokes, a young woman with beautiful concerned face and broken chains on her wrists. You study the letter, seeing nothing false in it. The writer wants to see you among his allies, it seems. Rebellion? Who is he? Was this the cause of father's death? You're lost in guesses. One thing is for sure. Someone finds this letter, you'll go to the scaffold even faster than your father. Not in an executioner role. Let's hide the letter. Spend a lot of time sitting at the table staring at your hands until you can no longer see the calluses of your fingers in the gathering twilight. Your head is empty. After dark, someone knocks on your door. You have to stand up and light the torch. The assistant, behind his back, a grey horse shuffles his hooves, worried about its dreary load. I have brought the gamekeeper's body and his belongings. The body, for the body smells of violent death, shit, urine, and just a bit of rot after your day spent under the rain in the town square. Hang the torch over the door and carry the body down into the basement. Leave the corpse on an empty table. Your assistant follows you like a shadow. When your hands are free, he tosses you a purse. You'll pay for the last day of the gamekeeper's life. The assistant spent the whole day watching over the corpse in the square and took it off the news and brought it here. But it is you who gets paid for the execution. Weighing the purse in your hand, you remember the law. Your apprentice's work is paid for at the rate decided by the master. Sometimes the latter decides to save on expenses, refusing to pay anything to his students. Despite his old age, the assistant is still registered as a student of the royal executioner, and you is master by law. How much did my father used to pay you? What share of the money did my father used to pay you, ask, expecting an honest answer. Instead, your assistant starts to swear. From his incoherent and highly emotional mumbling, you understand that he had not been happy with his old master. Apparently, your father fully reciprocated. So how much, you ask again? In the same tone, when your assistant stops his mumbling, he is about to start again. He meets your intimidating stare and gives up. Coin, he whines. And that only when in a good mood. Damn, people treat the dogs better. You can have heart. Hey, why haven't you left him for another master? If you were so unhappy with your apprenticeship, why didn't you leave for another master, you ask irritably. Serving the king is not like serving some provincial headman. It's an honor. It's an honorable responsibility. It's not about money or the arrogance of one's uppish master. The assistant is lying, but you know the answer already. A lonely and weak-bodied old fart is a bad workman. Even the best recommendations would not persuade any city executioner to accept him as his aide. Your father kept him all these years for whatever reason. The assistant opens his mouth in surprise. Feel the stench of rotten teeth and garlic soup. He is trying to hide his confusion. It seems that throughout his whole term of service he has never received such an amount of money. Yet gratitude in people is a rare sight, and the assistant's ugly old face twitches with greed. The body also costs money, he hurries to say hoarsely. I have a right for a share as well. You can sell the cadaver for a good profit, I know where. Okay, sure, why not? Find a buyer and you're in. Agreed, find a buyer and you're in. You answer rudely and grab the torch from the wall. You have heard from your father that selling bodies is a lucrative business, even though it is not exactly approved by the church. Men of the cloth rarely intrude into affairs of those wearing hood and apron. You can't just display your wares on a market stall in the bright of day. You have to personally find a buyer and quietly decide to go over your father's diary again and try to find some mention of previous deals, instead of asking the assistant for advice. The assistant backs out of the house, already by his cart, and calls you in an ingratiating tone. So shall I arrange everything with the buyer? You won't even have to do anything. Tomorrow on the dawn I will return to pick up the body. You will see, young master, that doing business with me by your side is very lucrative. Were your senses not that acute, you would not have noticed a contemptuous look on his rat-like face. Obviously, he considers himself to be an expert in this field, and is proud that he can do something better than you. Wave your hand silently, approving his request. The assistant gets into the cart, and the horse, sighing heavily, dragging him away into the dark, to the basement. The uneven light of the candle is enough for your keen eyes when you examine what you've got for today. See. Examine the gamekeeper's belongings. You step to the side and examine the scarce possessions of the gamekeeper. Here's the leather vest he was wearing, old but in good condition. His hat was shabby feathered, quilted pants and good boots, still muddy with borrowed soil. Everything is too small for you. It would be impossible to alter it to your size, but the used clothes trader will be interested in these items. Unlike the dead body, items made out of good leather and sturdy cloth are easy to sell, have a set price and they don't perish over time. The trader simply cuts the price in half for holes and scuffs. It's much easier than finding a buyer for a corpse. Examine the gamekeeper's body carefully. The gamekeeper lies naked and its wax-like paleness is accentuated by so many cuts and bruises. Most of them are your own work. Especially conspicuous is an uneven dark band around his neck, the rope mark. With no idea whatsoever how much body is worth. This here is a fresh one, not yet decomposed, but how much does it matter to those who are eager to pay for dead bodies? What kind of person will be buying bodies? An unscrupulous medical man? A sorcerer? A jaded aristocrat? Looking for some fun with dead flesh? A mad collector? You don't feel like guessing. Examine your father's diary. You never ask where the corpses from your basement go. Sometimes in the morning after an execution, the relatives of the executed knock on your door. Father would sell them the body for a higher price. Sometimes he took the body somewhere himself. You ought to sell bodies to relatives of diseased criminals. You ought to sell bodies to those who can pay good money for it. You ought to sell bodies to doctors for the benefit of science. You sell bodies to those who understand the sacred value. Relatives. Upstairs you sit at the table with a big candle and lean over the diary with trembling hands. You've seen the book, but Father never let you hold it. This is the first time you've ever opened it. Turn the pages carefully, searching for the topics you're most interested in now. Corpse buyers. Finally, next to the half-erased drawing, you find something resembling an address. Old cemetery after sunset. A bit lower there is another word, Domus. It has to be a name. This word, as you know. This word, as you know, translates from the southern dialect as the ruler. You've already seen a story of how to sell dead bodies somewhere among the pages. Your father described in detail how he was given a signal after the execution of one murderer. It was a candle placed on the south window of the abandoned chapel in the old cemetery. Maybe this method of contacting the buyer is still functional, and you will be able to sell the body. You should get up on the hill behind the house and look at the chapel windows. Many aristocrats are interested in the occult, walking the thin line between the study of an ancient culture and heresy. They have money, so the deal will be profitable, even if it's against the law. Your father was careful. The signaling system in the cemetery was probably developed by him. Nobody will be there after sunset, and if someone is caught with the body on their hands, they'll end up in your dungeon anyway. Let's check it out. Put on your jacket, wondering what to do with the candle flame barely burns in the window of the chapel in the old cemetery. Should you take the body to Father's mysterious buyer? Or should you wait until morning when the gamekeeper's relatives arrive to take his body? It overlooks the old cemetery, labyrinths of cracks light up at night, flashes of underground fire, fog mixed with fumes and bowels of the earth. In the centre of the cemetery, in the window of the dilapidated chapel, candle flame flutters. Fresh air makes you feel a bit better. It's unlikely that they've already buried Father. Tomorrow you'll learn the fate of his body. For now you might as well take a walk and let the morbid thoughts drift away into the night sky. Behind the house, a narrow street climbs up, soon becoming little more than a ever-growing path. Even in the old times, before this neighbourhood was abandoned, this place saw little traffic. Nowadays, the skeletons, neglected houses, those that haven't yet collapsed under the weight of time and desolation, keep away the rare passers-by better than angry dogs. At the top, among the flat stones protruding from the ground like old bones, the only company found is the thorny grass, the biting wind, distant sounds of the city. The hilltop overlooks an ancient meadow, known among locals as the Black Heath. Your acute senses perceive tendrils of smoke ahead. Their ghostly fingers rise from faintly smouldering pits. The chapel sticks out like a lonely black fang, its angular silhouette easily discernible even in the dark. The chapel's square foundation becomes visible through a tear in the shrouded night fog. A light flickers in the basement window. You strain your eyes to see that it is indeed a candle flame. This means that even in the dead of night, a customer is waiting in the chapel with his coins. A deceivingly peaceful ceremony. The cemetery drives you into melancholy. An acute feeling of loneliness and loss overwhelms you for a moment, followed by a new thought. Extra coin will be welcome, but it's not everything. Perhaps you'd better bury the body of the one whom you have tortured to death. Perhaps his long-suffering soul would at least last 5 years. On the way back, you keep a brisk pace. Small stones slide from under your feet and roll down the slope. Through the rattling, you barely register another, almost inaudible sound. Someone is shadowing you, hiding in the bushes along the roadside. Prepare for the assault. Hastening your steps, you turn towards home, but not fast enough. Evil green lights that have just glistened through the bushes suddenly appear quite close. Your shoulder strikes against a fence under the weight of another's body, while sharp teeth sink into your forearm. A huge dog, gaunt, old, and evidently sick, pulls your arm with a hungry snarl. The skin chills belatedly on your throat. This is where the beast aimed initially. How come your sense of danger failed to warn you of the attack? Last, you manage to grab the canine firmly by the scruff of its neck and throw it away. The dog hits the ground with a coarse growl. It springs up and limping breaks downhill through the bushes, casting a harsh glance at you. Feeling a pulsing pain in your arm. Bitten to the bone, you decide against chasing the dog for the night. You come to your house. On the road near the gates, 2 fallen elms form a barricade. You easily get through the burnt branches and suddenly hear voices near the gates. 2 men on the road. You can clearly see them. The first one, lantern in hand, is visible at the gates. Another one is behind him, almost indistinguishable in the dark. There's a bag with the notes of chemicals and herbs in his hand. A big knife is glowing in another. He is much smaller than the first man. You look at his hulking silhouette, unpleasantly surprised. You've never seen a man so big and impressive. He's on par with you in both height and constitution. Whatever they are waiting for, you will lose your advantage the moment you step into the circle of lantern light. These two could be real trouble in a fight. I'm going to call them from the darkness. Feel the bright and itchy scents around these uninvited guests. The short one wears the leather apron with deep stains, a butcher. He should be good with his knife, but why is he holding it in his hand if they are here for a harmless visit? Butcher humbly listens while his giant companion is talking about grey flies scratching his black beard. You're not sure about the meaning of his words. The man's clothes sound like a fortune. High quality material, shiny silver buttons, expensive boots. His hands are gloved with the same scent as the bag in the first man's hands. It's medicine. What do you want here? You call from your hiding place without closing the distance. Butcher is shaking and grips the knife handle. Big man raises his large hands, waving in your direction, and shouts into the darkness. The Honourable Royal Executioner, I suppose. Don't worry, my servant will put away his weapon. The short, tough guy hesitates, but he does as his master says. I'm here to talk business with the surgeon, if you don't mind. Step silently into the halo of dim yellow light. The man that addressed you involuntarily backs away. What do you want? I wanna end my stream, but I need to finish the day. It feels novel to look at someone without lowering your eyes. The man holds a portable lantern with a flaring candle inside. Raising it higher, he examines you impertinently. He is wearing strange-looking glasses. Are you hurt here? His voice is as impressive as his bulk, sounding not unlike a bear's growl. Teeth marks just above your wrist throb with pain, but you do not move your eyes away from the thugs standing in your path. You can hear the one behind the lantern bearer, shifting from one foot to the other. A thick-set and sturdy fellow, he looks small next to his companion. Yet it is he who is carrying a heavy bag. Both wear dark-coloured cloaks reaching to their heels, somewhat similar to priest robes. A wicked wound, says the first stranger nonchalantly in his deep voice. Animal bites should be treated with the utmost care and as soon as possible. Perchance you need help? Reading distrust in your face, he raises his free hand to pull off his hood. Glimpses a massive gold ring with a red jewel adorning his little finger. I'm a doctor, you see. Pleased to meet you. His well-shaven forehead reflects the flickering moonlight. His eyes meet yours, and you suddenly hear muffled sounds similar to those emitted from the torture chamber, moans of pain and terror. This is how frightened animals scream before they die. You feel an acute metallic paste on your palate, and a phantom weight of blood-slick axe handle in your hand. What is your advice about this wound? Of course you're... I can't afford services of gentlemen of your stature, but if you wish to help me for the love of it, I won't argue. Of course your wound must be cleaned as soon as possible, promptly answers your strange acquaintance. I strongly advise you to use wormwood tincture with a high alcohol content. Always carry it with me, a sure thing. It must be carefully applied to your wound, but preferably not outside. The procedure requires clean and well-lit premises. Can we please get this over with? Wormwood tincture is an expensive potion. You would use it to treat your wound yourself if you only had it at home. Since you were a kid, your father had been teaching you various secrets of medical craft, treating you at home, never calling for city surgeons. Let's talk inside. Several minutes later, the two of you are sitting in your kitchen. The air smells thickly of blood and herbs. Your hand has been washed into a bowl filled with wormwood tincture and bandaged tightly. Your guest indeed shows great skill in treating wounds. His grumpy companions remained at the gates. The surgeon took the heavy chest from his hands. It was weightless. Now it sits open on a nearby chair, and you can glimpse many vials of dark glass and dimly glittering metal tools. You better find the dog and kill it, says your guest. If it carries a disease known as hydrophobia, it may cause much grief. As the owner of the slaughterhouse, the one behind the pasture gates, have you been in the neighborhood? I have dealt with the rabid animals many times, so I know quite well how dangerous and contagious the malady is. Rabies. The dog was weird indeed, you shrugged your shoulders. Drinking the remains of the tincture without even wincing, the surgeon leans towards you confidently and says, By the way, tomorrow my slaughterhouse is going to host a most interesting event of a mystical variety. You will no doubt be very educational and profitable to boot. You and your breathless friend will be honoured guests. He goes silent and suggestively and makes a gesture as if hanging himself by the neck, hinting at the gamekeeper. Of course, he continues, seeing that his message has been received, I will pay handsomely for your contribution to the ceremony. This is not the main point. I dare say that no one throughout the kingdom practices rituals of the kind we can hold with the help of your dear friend. I will come. I will come. You've been looking for a way to get rid of the gamekeeper's corpse. You have found it. Besides, it will be interesting to take a look at this mysterious ritual. After all, even if something unlawful is planned, nobody ever forbade you from walking around with a corpse on your shoulder, right? I will be happy to see you at my place, loudly proclaims the delighted surgeon. You seem to have much in common besides height and tolerance for blood. Wheezing. When he tells the truth, his low voice sounds almost melodically. You surmise that he is not the one to lie often. Oh my god, can I just end this shit? Time for me to go. Don't neglect your wound and try to find the dog. Rarely carries a disease, you better know about it. Good night. He holds out his calloused hand so confidently that you offer yours, and only feeling a firm handshake, you realize this is the first time you ever treated like this. People don't shake hands with executioners. Aren't you unclean creatures forever stained with blood and death? Why even to say greetings to a headsman, to wish him health, or to meet his eyes is considered a bad omen? And yet this powerful man, rich inside and harboring strange ideas, addresses you as if you were equals. You don't know how to return a compliment, nodding awkwardly. You leave the surgeon at the side of the road in the company of his lantern and his accomplice, silently go home, still pondering over your new acquaintance. Looks like super quiet. You should pay a bit to the slaughterhouse. From your childhood, you needed less sleep than your father. You used to spend nights at work fulfilling his tasks. Today, you have nobody to tell you what to do. Occupy your hands and mind. You'll have to choose yourself. Main menu. I am done. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will be back tomorrow or something. Maybe. I don't know. But have a great day, night, whatever. And I'll catch you later. Bye for now. Bye.